I didn't like to see this little girl go away from the area. It's a real Essex roller. It's obviously got to be restored, but it's still in good working order. It's just a little bit tricky on the starting. 1938, single cylinder, long stroke, Ruston engine, none of your push button job. It takes 3 men today to start this roller. Man number 1 has to put in a lighted taper the other side to aid ignition on the first rotation. Slip of steel on a bit of binder string, and that is inserted in here to lift the valve. Now, because of my decrepitude, this is going to need another man.
When Fred Knight's diesel roller was brand new in 1938, there were 125,000 miles of roads in Britain. They were based on the Roman roads and old tracks forged where human and horse traffic had traipsed for centuries. By the early 1920s, motor traffic was tearing these roads apart. Hot coal tar from coal-fired boilers was used to seal and bind the surface. Tar could be sprayed through a lance direct from a pump on the side of the boiler. Stone chippings would then be scattered into the rapidly cooling surface. Britain's snaking highways and byways needed constant maintenance. Road rollers were the only mechanisation.
Morning, Alan. Fired it, it's in steam, I've oiled it.
So all
you've got to do is get on and show me how to drive it.
Well, thank you very much. That's very fine of you. Yeah.
There you are, it's all yours.
Thank you.
It's still as cantankerous as when you drove it last time.
Make sure there's plenty of room in front.
God, posh hat too.
British it will then.
Though there were diesel and petrol-engined rollers, the most common was the steam roller. Alan Pronger drove Joan, a 1925 8-ton S-Class Marshall, which he named after his wife, for 20 years for West Sussex County Council. Its working life didn't end until 1978.
This is probably the last council-owned roller that was in commercial use. And the reason they kept it going because it had got a driver for it and it was in a workable condition. So they just got the best out of it. It seemed, they didn't see any point in getting rid of it, just to replace it with a new roller when it didn't need replacing. It wasn't fit to be replaced at the time. It still had several years working it, so they used it. I don't think it was any more uneconomical than any other roller. Yeah, it lost the touch.
You must have practised on a mammoth before you came here.
On a what?
Mammoth.
No. Ah, yeah.
This clattering train of roller, living van and water cart on its endless road repair schedule was once one of Britain's most familiar sights. It was a tough life for the roadmen.
You had to be on the job early on a Monday morning. I used to return on the Sunday night. The roller was stone cold and it used to take longer to raise steam, so you used to get up at 5:30 and light the roller up, cook your breakfast, and then go out to the roller and oil it round, and once you had steam raised, you were on the job at 7:30 when the gang arrived. And that went on through the week. Within Saturday dinner times, you cleaned the clinker out and pushed the remains of the fire at the front end of the box and sheeted up, and left a bundle of firewood and a bunker full of knobs ready for Monday morning again. And that was the whole job, week in and week out. I didn't live in the van at the weekend, I used to go home because I was courting. But you had to live in it all through the week and do your own cooking and cleaning. And there was always something to do. You never got bored with it. we took the rough with the smooth. I mean, in weather like this, it was lovely of an evening sitting in the van and probably peeling potatoes ready for the next night's meal. So and giving the van a sweep out or perhaps polishing the kitchen range. But winter times, it was a little bit different. When you woke up in the morning, your bedding was froze to the side of the van, and the ice on the drinking bucket and the kettle lid was froze onto the kettle. It wasn't quite so clever then, and it was pitch dark as well. You can't compare the roadworks that we did and the roadworks that take place today. We could work on a main road and have half the road being repaired, and perhaps 2 cars an hour would come by, no trouble at all.
Built in 1934, this Super Sentinel steam lorry revolutionised roadworks. With a tank mounted on its back, steam was bled from the engine's boiler to heat the tar whilst travelling to the job.
This machine is a tar sprayer that heats the tar up to 180 degrees and then sprays it through the swirl bars and the special jets on the back. Prior to this, they were mainly heated with timber and coal-fired.
Heating inflammable coal tar with a fire was a risky business, so using steam heat was just one of the Sentinel's advantages.
With the Sentinel, you can gauge the speed of the lorry. The faster you go, the less tar you put on the road. The slower you go, the more tar you put on the road. So if you was in a highly stressed area on a corner or something like that, you'd put more tar than what you would on a nice straight piece of road. But of course, when they were drawing them with horses prior to this, you could only get the horse to go a bit slower or a bit faster, but it was a bit irregular, you know. This is the main feed to the pump. This side you've got the steam, which drives the pump, and this side you've got the tar. If I turn the pump on, have you got the tap turned on at the top? And you'll see it start pumping. Now at the moment, it's bringing the tar at the bottom, into the bottom, sucking it into the pump, blowing it at the pump and blowing it into the top of the tank. So it's circulating the tar to get it all mixed up to the right temperature. Now I can turn on the tap bar the other side. Okay, Paul. And once he pulls off, I will turn the taps on and do what we call a run-in start. Well, we've got a bit of streak there, we've got a bit missing. One of the jets not working very well, but they'll come on stream in a minute. There we're going to stream now. It's going well now. And we put the pump circulating back again. Now we start putting the chippings on. Normally there would be another chipper come up behind, but we haven't got one here today, so we should be hand chipping, and they'll start down the bottom and work their way up. It takes practice rather than skill to get the chippings to spread over rather than chuck them in one big lump. So what the idea is now to lay a thin layer of chippings over and roll them in the tar, give you another running surface. Cheap maintenance, been going on for years.
But cheap maintenance soon wouldn't be enough. Road building in Britain was about to be transformed by some extraordinary machines.
The friendless soil of England, with its ordered farms and rural hamlets. The England of the towns and cities. But today, their countryside has changed. Today, their island has been converted into a gigantic bomber field, a super aircraft carrier anchored off the shores of Fortress Europe, with hundreds of dispersal points, perimeter tracks, and runways.
In converting the countryside into a gigantic bomber field, England was, for the first time, exposed to the full glory of America's heavy construction kit. This rather asthmatic machine was part of it. And this is former Corporal Maurice Gowlett, who drove a similar galleon grader for the RAF's Airfield Construction Squadron.
After 51 years having not driven a galleon grader, it's a little bit awkward. The articulated wheels are characteristic of a grader, whether they be galleon or caterpillar or any make. They help you turn corners. They help you, if you're grading on an angle, to keep the machine at the correct angle. I was 20 when I first saw a galleon grader. I saw it at Mill Green Plant School, which was a school for plant operators during the war just outside Welwyn Garden City. And we had excavators and plant and graders, bulldozers, all types of plant.
Airfield Construction Plant was not exclusively American. This British roller is clearly built for speed rather than comfort. It went fast, but was rather slow off the production line.
Avelings didn't want to build this particular roller, cheap design, because their quality that they always built was far superior to this. So the parts are cast with the word war design, cast into the parts, on the gearboxes, on the wheels, everywhere.
After arguing with the Ministry of Supply for 2 years, roller makers Aveling Barford eventually produced their PV8. With a growling Ford V8 engine, it was the roller world's hot rod.
This will do at least 20 miles an hour if you can stay on the road and stay on the machine. In airfield construction, you've got long, straight runs. You're not using reverse. On airfield, you've probably got a 1 mile run, straight forward, turn round and come back again. It weighs 8.5 tons. The rear wheels are solid concrete to give the ballast. But literally, it is too fast for ordinary road work.
The Allied landings on Normandy's D-Day beaches involved thousands of troops, tanks, guns, trucks and construction plant. Corporal Maurice Gowlett landed on D-Day plus 26.
I landed one of these in the afternoon. It was just south of the line of ships, so we rammed the beaches basically on a tank landing craft. And we collected in a collecting point which just is probably half a dozen fields all mown together. All we've done was fields like we've got around us here, and we bulldozed them into one and created an airstrip where the Spitfires landed fairly soon after D-Day. The front was just the other side of the Cairn. It was a hard life, and there was quite a lot of knocks in it. It wasn't easy. It wasn't a Brill Cream boys of the RAF, far from it. If you was a plant operator, although your pay was the second highest in the RAF, you certainly earned your money.
For the 21-year-old Maurice Gowlett, plant operating in wartime was character forming. As if driving a machine that looked like a praying mantis under fire wasn't enough, he was exposed to unforgettable experiences.
In Cairn, which was basically razed to the ground, you have this smell of dust, destroyed buildings. But out of those buildings, when we drove through on one of these in Caen, there came a wedding party, complete with the bride in her wedding dress, and that was in the middle of a wrecked city. And it's just something that's always stuck in my mind, that you know, out of ashes, there's something life was still going on.
When life really did get back to normal, the machines that built wartime runways were snapped up and the modern plant hire industry was born.
Today, the speed at which work has to be carried out has led to the increasing use of mechanical finishers. Not only are these machines more economical, but they give a better running surface.
This American import is a Model 875 Barber Green paver. Though it looks rather like a mobile skip, it is in fact a precision instrument of road surfacing. Unlike the men that they replaced, pavers could work non-stop and could lay as much as 120 tons of asphalt in an hour. Supplied by relays of lorries, the hungry paver could lay 30 feet of road a minute.
The load of asphalt is backed up to the front of the machine, which then pushes the lorry forward as the asphalt is tipped, passes through the machine, and is spread evenly in its wake.
The Barber Green works rather like a food processor. Asphalt is poured into its hopper and is then conveyed to two worm screws at the back, which feed it under this jiggling, tamping down device before it's finally fed under the screed, a large flat plate which lays the hot asphalt carpet. Pavers transformed the quality of the surfaces of existing roads. But the real road revolution was about to take place on a new system of highways that would be ruthlessly driven through the heart of rural Britain. To construct the new non-stop motorways, the same family of machines that built the wartime runways would be just the job. This is a 1949 International TD-24 bulldozer. It can shift up to 285 tons of earth per hour with its cable-operated blade. People have all kinds of hobbies. Some play golf or collect china. Some worry about Liverpool's progress in the Premiership. The man on this machine, Fred Knight, collects bulldozers.
Well, I started to build this collection up in the mid-70s, and it's steadily grown over the years as I've got crazier and crazier and older, and my bank balance has gone steadily downhill ever since. This is a Caterpillar D7, mid-1940s vintage. This cable blade arrangement with the overhead gantry is a typical wartime picture. Power comes from this front mounted winch. This is mounted on the front of the engine. It's a simple idea. The winch is wound in, and it simply pulls the cable and it lifts the blade or lowers the blade, whichever the operator wanted to do. One of the snags vis-a-vis hydraulic equipment, of course, with a cable-operated blade, is you can't actually press down on the blade and press it into the earth. It's simply got to enter the earth under its own weight, and that could sometimes make it a little bit difficult, and the operator certainly needed special skills for that.
The drivers of this hydraulically operated British-built Vickers Vigor didn't need so many special skills. Being based on the running gear of a tank, it was fast, easy to drive, and could even change gear on the move.
When conditions demand a positive down pressure, the Vickers hydraulic dozer makes full use of the engine's power.
These machines had a Rolls-Royce engine, and that was brilliant.
Its high speed enables contractors to move loads more quickly over long hauls under any operating conditions.
The concept was brilliant. For some time, it was believed that here was the future of going about earth moving and increasing efficiency and so on.
The driver's seat is placed high for unobstructed vision, a vital factor in speedy operating where the margin of safety may be small. By speedy reversing, more productive time is spent dozing.
Unfortunately, after about 10 years, the dream sort of faded. These machines were very fast, manoeuvrable, easy to drive, but they didn't seem to have the strength in the construction to avoid many breakdowns. Mainly the faults were in the back end and the transmission.
The premature demise of the Vigor meant that it would not be part of the road-building bonanza bulldozing its way through the green fields of Britain.
Nature gives way to the demands of man and progress. The bulldozer is well suited for this preliminary work and paves the way for the excavation of the foundations.
After the bulldozers cleared the way, machines like this 1943 Caterpillar D8 towing an onions scraper would cut, level and cart the earth away in one go.
There was a good basis of machinery and operators who'd had experience of using them during the war, or the major construction works that went on in the 40s and 50s, obviously leading up to the great era of motorway construction, which began in the late 50s and continues, nearly continues up till today.
The greatest mechanised army ever sent into action on a road project in Britain. £5 million worth of plant, 80,000 horsepower.
By 1959, this mechanised army was building a runway for cars called the M1 motorway. At the time, there wasn't a shadow of a doubt that motorways were always going to be a jolly good thing.
And we stay with a focus on heavy machinery after the break on Discovery Channel to follow what was one of the most demanding construction projects ever. Manipuri, the toughest tunnel, is next.